Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Connor Sparkman, and I'm the Marketing Analytics Manager for Looker at Google Cloud. And with me is Dee Riley, Customer Engineer from Looker at Google Cloud as well. Today, we're going to be talking about selecting the right data display. What that means is that we are looking at how to define the best data experience to support your organization. So we want to start by discussing what it means to be a data-driven organization. Being data-driven means that every decision made is backed by data. So in order to do this, data needs to be embedded in every workflow within your organization. So how do we do this? It all starts with dashboards and reports. So serving up real-time, trusted, and actionable insights in the hands of decision makers. Now, this helps cultivate a data culture throughout your organization. However, not everyone wants to live in a BI tool. In many cases, you need to be able to bring the data to where people are already working. Now, what this looks like is infusing the data into existing tools and products where people are already using them within their daily workflow. It allows you to seamlessly deliver information to where it's needed, when it's needed. And that could mean automating data sent to spreadsheets on a regular cadence, or have it surfaced in other tools like a CRM system or a chat system. Now, this could even mean automating and optimizing existing workflows. So building bots that bid on ad spend, or automatically generating targeted emails. And finally, being able to bring this all together in a custom application. So bringing dashboards, reports, integrating them within the existing workflows that people are already using, and being able to do this on top of the BI tool that you are using. So utilizing any and all of these cultivates that data culture and allows your company to truly be data-driven. So what does this actually look like? Well, when we talk about data experiences with Looker, Looker gives you this unified surface to access the truest and most up-to-date version of your company's data. So having Looker on top of all your data allows you to choose and design the data experience that assures people and systems get data delivered to them in a way that makes the most sense for their needs. Now, data experiences can represent any number of ways in which companies drive value from data, reducing costs and mitigating risk, or adding value by increasing revenue and optimizing spend. So what this looks like in practice, if we take modern BI and analytics, if we use Looker as an example, we use dashboards to run our entire business. We have embedded data into our decision-making by enabling everyone from intern to VP to use and align on curated dashboards. Each team is accountable to goals and uses these dashboards to both monitor and align cross-functional strategies. And we'll discuss this a little bit more in depth later. When we talk about integrated insights, when we look at a company like Datadog, who embeds usage data from Looker into their CRM system. Now, this allows sales reps to have a lot more context around their customer calls because they have the data that helps support those calls within the system that they already use. Now, when we look at data-driven workflows, we think about a company like FuturePlay, which is a mobile gaming studio company. Now, FuturePlay started with one dashboard where they could monitor different reports and determine ads and channels and regions that bring in the most high-value players. Now, from there, they built a predictive lifetime value model within Looker, and it was able to predict how a brand new user would be able to spend throughout their entire lifetime. Now, with this model, they were able to build bots that were able to help automate user acquisition and bid on ad spend as well. And so they were able to take the data within Looker and automate and optimize workflows that were already existing in their systems. And finally, to be able to bring it all together, we have a company like Essence, which is a global data and measurement-driven media agency. Now, they leverage Looker to deliver data in a scalable, meaningful way to their customers. They built a custom application using Looker that connected to specific data models in order to promote trust and engagement with their data. So each of these are specific examples of each data experience, all used and built on top of Looker. Now, while dashboards may be just the starting point to fostering data-driven culture, they are the foundation of it all.
As Connor has said, dashboards are the starting off point for that data-driven culture in your business. So in the next section, we're going to be looking at here why dashboards are important for your users, as well as how do we start the process of building a dashboard. Users are used to looking at data from an old version, looking at spreadsheets, line charts, pie charts. Users are now evolving. They're asking more of your data, so we need to evolve with your users. They're looking for a story process to figure out what exactly is happening in their business today and what can they do to stop this. What we really want to do is promote a decision-making environment for these users. We want to make sure that they have a curated experience that they trust. When everyone's in a room, you want to make sure that the story that's being told is accurate from every person in that room. Once everyone has the correct data, that's when everyone can start talking and figuring out what exact actions do we need to take from the data being presented on these dashboards. Dashboards are really a product for your end users. So when developing a product, we need to make sure that we are considering what exactly are we looking at for a product and how is this going to be helpful for our user. First stage we're going to look at here is defining the core problem. So asking your users, what exactly is the problem that you're looking to solve? Who are we presenting these dashboards to? What's going to be important for them when they're looking at this as their success criteria? Next part that we would be evaluating is, now that we know what our core problem is, what research needs to be done on this? What data sources are we needing for this problem? As well as who are the people that need this dashboard? What are their insights into these processes? Once we have all of our research stage, this is when we can start building out and analyzing our process. So what is exploring the data, playing with what's going to work for the user, trying to figure out exactly how we want to tell this story. One of the most important parts is how we're going to prioritize all of the information that we've just gathered. Users are going to be giving you a lot of information that they're looking for, different data sources, and what you need to do is start prioritizing. What's going to be important that first needs to be delivered, second, and third. This can be broken up into multiple dashboards. This doesn't need to be solved in one problem. Now we can start the design and develop. This part is important to make sure that we still get your audience involved. We're looking for feedback from them. We want to make sure what we're designing matches what they actually are asking for. This phase is going to be very interactive, and a lot of testing is going to be going into this process. Now, once we have everything come together, we're going to get our users involved again. We're going to do a larger scale and make sure that what we've defined in our first core problem actually measures up to the success criteria. And the most important part of all of this is that we're going to iterate this process multiple times. Once we give users their answers to their problems, they're going to have new problems. And once we have those new problems, we're going to start this phase all over again, starting with defining our new problem, researching, analyzing, develop. All of this is supposed to be working in tandem with your team and using both the audience as well as the data to make sure that we're solving the correct problems for them. Now that we've figured out how to define a dashboard, now we're going to start really analyzing how to get that information out of both your audience and your data. So the first part we're going to be focusing on here is our audience. So during this research phase, we're going to be asking a lot of questions to our users. Who is going to be using the dashboard? What are you trying to accomplish with this data? What actions need to be taken from this? Asking all these questions of our users is going to make sure we get them thinking about exactly what type of problems they're looking to solve. We then will focus on looking at that from a data perspective. So what are the metrics that we're looking at? How are we supposed to answer these questions based on the data sources that we have? A key example of this is someone from your audience may ask you, I want to know if my business is being successful. That's a very vague answer. So we want to try and dive into that more and say, well, what does successful mean for you? What are the KPIs that you are interested in? Is it going to be how your revenue is based? Is it how many users you have? We really want to try and figure out the data that matches the answer to the business users. Once we have that piece from the audience and the data that we need to supply to them, this is where we get that impactful dashboard. We need to make sure that we are both including the audience as well as the correct data sources to make sure that we deliver them the best story.
So the most important aspect of a dashboard is the audience. So we're going to dive in on the specifics of what you should focus on when we're looking at how to build a dashboard for the correct audience. Now, when you're deciding on who it is that is going to be at the end of this dashboard, you want to identify the core purpose of this dashboard. Now, when you have decided what the core purpose is, you can break your dashboard into 3 different categories. The first of which is going to be a strategic and KPI dashboard. Now, these specific dashboards focus specifically on executive level KPI tracking. So in other words, easily and quickly answer the question, how is our business, program, projects, or campaign performing? Now, they'll have high-level KPI tracking. They'll be short and concise with very limited filters. The focus here is ease of use. And the audience that you're really focusing on are those leadership teams. You want to be able to deliver insights very quickly and very easily. Now, the next category of dashboards that you could be focusing on are what we call operational dashboards. These monitor and track for the specific purpose of automation and optimization. So these are about 1 level deeper from your strategic and KPI dashboards. Here, you're able to easily identify trends on data. The focus is on filtering, cohorting, adding extra detail to the data. The audience here are managers, project and program leaders, individual contributors, the people that actually need the detail on the data. Finally, the third category is analytical. This is the deep dive dashboard. It's a bit of a catch-all, but this is where all the in-depth analysis is found. This is where you're finding those new insights. These dashboards are secondary or even tertiary to the strategic and operational dashboards. This is where you would find a lot of advanced analysis. There'd be lots of functionality on the dashboard, and there would be a need for subject matter expertise in order to fully understand these dashboards. So once you've defined the dashboard that you are going to build, and you've identified that core purpose of the dashboard, the next aspect is understanding the key workflows of your audience. How do they want to consume the data? How are they going to make action on the data? And with this, you then want to define the success around the dashboard itself. Your audience is going to dictate the success and value that is derived from this dashboard. So make sure you're able to define that so that you can measure and track it later. So now we're going to dive into each of these dashboard categories individually. So let's explore what a strategic dashboard looks like in practice. As I brought up earlier, dashboards and analytics are at the core of any decision we make at Looker. With everyone using data to make decisions, cross-functional alignment is critical to our business success. However, this can be incredibly difficult, especially between organizations such as marketing and sales. These organizations rarely have the same metrics that they define their own success by, so at times it can almost feel like you're working at odds with one another. But at the end of the day, we are all accountable to one another and the business growth as a whole. In order to foster alignment at Looker, we've nominated a council of business leaders from each team that meets biweekly. Now, their purpose is to identify areas of the business that are working and areas of the business where we may need to focus our attention to improve. However, in order to do this, we needed to first define our success behind a common metric. Now, that metric will depend on your company, but for us as a business-to-business SaaS company, we aligned at what we call stage 2 opportunities, also known as sales qualified opportunities. That was our definition of success for every department. Each team has a hand in generating demand for stage 2 opportunities, and thus is held accountable to it. So now that we have defined our success, we needed to track and measure it. So we built this strategic dashboard, which gave us easy and a dynamic view of our business and fostered aligned and actionable insight. So you can see on this dashboard, we provide high-level KPIs that show each team's progression towards their Stage 2 quarterly goal. We allow them to easily identify key areas of strength and weakness in our pipeline by showing progress to our goals in different segmentations. We give context to the current quarter by showing historical trends and comparisons to previous timeframes. But the most important feature of this dashboard is that we schedule the dashboard to send to leadership teams on a regular interval so that they can stay informed before and in between those bi-weekly meetings so they come prepared. Now, these dashboards need to be the single source of truth. When you build a strategic dashboard, you have to make it the core of every meeting that you have when you're looking at these KPIs. There is no debate on whose data is right because we know that we have aligned on these data metrics within this dashboard. So we have this cross-functional alignment on the dashboard, and we now just focus on what is working and what can we improve.
So Connor's gone through the KPI dashboard. So as he's gone through, KPI dashboards are really for those executive audiences that want one-off reports, weekly reports. So the next kind of stage to that is the operations dashboard. So your operation managers, product managers, people daily that need to access data that are going to make daily decisions for their workflow. So the first thing about these dashboards that are important is making sure that they're filterable as well as drillable. So when you get your dashboard, you want to be able to slice and dice that data, try and figure out what's working well in your business and what's not working well. You know, for instance, like if we're looking at certain states, looking at certain brands, looking at certain campaigns, we want to make sure that we can slice and dice the dashboard depending on what we want to look at. Once we get into the dashboard, then there's going to be two different types of visualizations. You're still going to have your KPIs, a quick, easy glance to figure out, am I red today? Am I green today? What's actually happening? And then from there, we can go into a more detailed breakdown. So we can see exactly into the nitty-gritty of your business, maybe some row level detail, really trying to dig into what's causing maybe something being red for the day. Once we get into that, we can then start setting scheduled alerts for this. So maybe we hit a certain threshold that is bad, and we want to make sure that we're alerted about that in the future to make sure that we can act as quickly as possible in our day-to-day business. These dashboards are going to empower your users to make data-driven decisions. We can even enable these dashboards to be auto-refreshable. So that way, if you have these dashboards up in your office or that's something you need to be checking regularly on an hourly basis, maybe see how many orders we've hit today. This is where the dashboards can also be enabled to make sure that it's real-time information being given to your users. Once we move off that operational dashboard, let's say the use case is you figure that one of your products is not selling well. So we want to do a root cause analysis and figure out where can we go from here. This is where an analytics dashboard makes that next step a lot easier. So an idea of the analytical dashboard is that we want to make sure that we have limited filters on it. We were really passing off maybe filters from that previous dashboard to dive more into this particular problem from the data that we have found. The data in the dashboard is going to be cross-filterable. So we can click on things on our dashboard and maybe we can see in this brand if we're looking at a particular store, we now want to cross-filter to that particular store. And then on top of that, we want to cross-filter to a particular product in that store. So with the ability of cross-filtering, we're still able to slice and dice that data, but more trying to dig deeper into that root cause of your problem. On these dashboards, we're going to have slightly different visualizations. We're going to be maybe pulling from different data sources. So things like benchmarking data may become more popular in these dashboards, or possibly adding in trend lines, more statistical analysis. This is where we're really going to try and, again, dig deeper into the problem, really bring in a more granular level of information so that this report is more meaningful for your users, that they can make sure that this is actually the root cause. And again, on top of that, take action from this. From this dashboard, maybe we want to link out, we want to schedule these reports, we want to set thresholds to make sure that this doesn't happen again, or if it does happen again, we want to make sure that we point it to the dashboard that's going to give us all the answers from it. So this analytical dashboard, to summarize, is really just going to be that place where your users are going to dive deeper into that data without needing to build their own reports, go through the Explore. It's still going to be that starting off point for them to keep going into that data and trying to figure out what's happening.
So we've defined all the dashboards. Now you're asking yourself, how do I choose which one to use for my particular situation? The best way for us to look at this scenario is to ask yourself 4 questions. The first of which is always going to be, who is the audience for this dashboard? Everything starts and ends with the audience. Always build with the end user in mind, as they are going to dictate the success and value of your product. Once you've outlined your audience, you want to ask yourself, what questions are they trying to answer? Direct your dashboard towards those questions and make sure that you are providing value by ultimately answering the underlying question with your dashboard. Now, similar to that is always tie these questions and your dashboard as a whole back to the business problem they're trying to solve. You are here to help derive value and provide insight from the data. In order to do this, your product must satisfy the underlying business need. And finally, ask what decision will they make and what action will they take with this data. Decision and action will always be the end result of a dashboard. Knowing what these are ahead of time will help you choose the right data experience to support them. Above all, remember that this is an art. There's no secret formula to the best dashboard. Use these questions to guide you, but it's up to you to choose the right data experience to work for your situation. Now, if you start every dashboard or analysis or report by asking yourself, who is on the other side of this and how can I best support them with the tools that I have, then you're going to end up in the right place.